Hello, 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 it's Sydney Rose and I'm back in my craft room, so you know today is going to be another art video. So now you might be asking, why are you wearing a cowboy hat and why are there ducks in your background? I'm wearing the cowboy hat, of course, to say howdy partner. Duh. I am from South Carolina after all. But just kidding, that's not actually why. It's actually because I got an excuse to wear this shirt, which I never get the opportunity to wear because I feel like there's never an opportunity for it. I think it kind of looks like a cowboy shirt or like a pirate shirt, so yeah, that's the real reason. That's not the real reason. Can you guys tell I'm trying to be funny? And I'm definitely not wearing green sweatpants with a red and white shirt and a white cowboy hat because that would be a fashion disgrace. A total faux pas. Who doesn't love a good digital footprint? Okay, corny, and dry humor jokes aside, I actually am wearing this cowboy hat today because I'm turning this cowboy hat into a custom duck hat. So that means I can finally take it off right now. And there it lives. My bangs are not cooperating for this video. I feel like they never are for any of my intros. I promise I have good hair days sometimes, okay? But for the real reason we're here. In Greenville, South Carolina, every year on the day of the Kentucky Derby, they have a duck derby race where they have a bunch of rubber ducks and they race them down the Reedy River. You're able to adopt a duck for $10. The winner gets free groceries for a year from Publix, and there's also a lot of other prizes for the following places. I think there's like up to 50 prizes. And I've always thought about going, but I've just always missed the date and the weekend that it's happening on, and then I'll see it on social media later and I'll be like, oh man, I need to go to that next year, but then I don't and I forget about it again. But thankfully, Facebook Events was on my side this year. Facebook Events is like actually super underrated. I know that Facebook is starting to become a dying social media platform for the younger generations, and I am an elder Gen Z, but I love Facebook, and if it wasn't for Facebook Events, I never would have been the lizard man pageant queen either. So, you know, my life is a series of side quests, and I kind of live for that, and I live for the adventure and being random because why not, right? Sometimes random side quests are what makes life fun, and I like to experience everything. And yeah, that's kind of a ramble, but I feel like my camera keeps shaking. So the Duck Derby this year is taking place on May 2nd. It's currently April 26th, so it's next weekend. While I was looking on the event page for the Facebook, just looking at all of the activities when it was happening, because I was really interested in going this year. I was doing all of this last week, by the way. Yeah. But when I was looking at the Facebook event page just to see when everything was happening, what time, and what different events, I noticed that there was a hat making competition. It is the Duck Derby after all, and one of the things the Kentucky Derby is known for is the very glamorous, very loud, and extravagant hats that are worn at the Kentucky Derby. And while looking, I'll put some videos in the video. That's redundant, but I'll list some here. Some of the hats I've seen in the examples were like Kentucky Derby themed with the like big flowers. You know what a well, if you don't know what a Kentucky Derby hat is, I'll also put videos or pictures of Kentucky Derby hats, but some of them were based off of that. I'll also put some of the examples here. But one year, a woman won by making a duck-themed carousel, and so I thought that was really cool. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Kentucky Derby themed, it just has to be a duck-themed hat to support the Duck Derby race. And while I was looking into the Duck Derby, there are actually a lot of amazing charities that are being supported. When you adopt a duck, you can go on the drop-down menu and pick out a charity that you would like to support, and I will link all of those in the description, so if you're interested in supporting them, the links will be very convenient for you. I've never made a hat before. I know I'm technically not making the hat, I'm decorating a hat, but I'm very excited to take on this side quest and see how it comes out. My plan is to turn this hat into a cake hat. So if you've been following me for a while, you may have seen my 25th birthday cake video where I made a fake birthday cake. Here it is. Well, I guess I turned 2. Rest in peace to my 5 candle. I'll just glue it back on later. While I was scrolling on Pinterest for ideas, I found these cowboy cake hats, but I think my plan is going to be turning this middle into a complete cake, and then the sides are going to be like the plate, and I'm going to decorate it. So I have a white base cowboy hat that will be pretty easy for painting, and I won't have to worry about priming it any color or anything. And I have a lot of ducks. 160 ducks to be exact. Now maybe you're like, Sydney, why did you order so many ducks for one hat? It was an accident. I originally ordered 100 of these little tiny ducks, because that was the only pack they would come in, was 100 of these tiny little, I think they're resin ducks, for just extra decoration around the cake. And then I ordered 10 of these supposed to be mold-free rubber ducks for baths. See, they don't have a hole in the bottom, or it's sealed up, so they don't squeak. They don't even really collapse very well since there's no room for air. But these were supposed to be for the decorations, like around the top of the cake, and maybe I would put 1 or 2 around the hat just to see. I have Prime Amazon, and so everything was supposed to be here in 2 days, but I got a notification that these ducks were going to be delayed until the 28th, which is the Thursday before, and I wasn't going to have time to finish my hat if I was putting these ducks on the Thursday before, because they would need to sit in the gel medium. So again, if you watch my last cake video, you know that I used gel medium for the icing, and I just stuck my bats for the cake just right in it. I'll go over that process if you haven't seen that video, but if you haven't seen that video shoot, you should definitely check it out after this one, because that would be pretty cool. And if you like my content, you could like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. I reply to all the comments because I'm still a small enough YouTube channel that I can do that. This intro is going to be super long. I'm a rambler and I don't have a script right now. But like I said, I got a notification that these guys were delayed until the 28th. I'm filming this on the 26th, so obviously they got here on time. But when I got the notification that they were going to be delayed, I ordered these guys, which are a little bit smaller than I expected them to be, but it's fine. They said they were going to be here within 2 days for Prime, which they were, and they actually showed up after the original mold-free ducks. So Amazon lied to me when they said my package was delayed, but they're not actually delayed. And these came in a pack of 50 because that was the smallest pack I could find. And I don't know what I'm going to do with 150 ducks. So if anybody has like an idea, let me know. I thought about maybe trying to give them out at the festival, but I don't know if that's allowed. Like similar to maybe trinket trading at the Ren Fair, but I don't expect to get anything back because I doubt many people are going to the Duck Derby to trade trinkets. But maybe I could put like a cute little note with them, like have a ducktastic day or some other like duck or derby themed pun just to make people laugh or something. I don't know. If you have any ideas, let me know, but this video won't be out until after the Duck Derby happens, so I guess don't give me ideas, or if I don't end up doing that, you'll know by this point and you can give me ideas of what to do with them, and I probably won't be able to give all of them out anyway. And they squeak. There's your squeaky duck ASMR. So regardless of whatever I use these for, I'm going to try to use all 3 sizes in the cake somehow or another. So that's my basic plan. Enough with the talking. Let's get into making this cake. Well, I guess making this hat cake. Duck hat cake? Duck cake? Hat cake duck. Whatever. Let's go. I actually finally cleaned off my desk, other than obviously the acrylic marker stains, but I finally cleaned off my desk of everything that was around here because I had to take my my serve safe certification test for my server job today, and nothing was supposed to be around me, so I definitely didn't just throw everything into a box next to me to clear it temporarily, but that's fine. And that box definitely is not filled with a lot of unfinished baby 3s that I've been working on since December and haven't finished yet because I keep getting distracted with other projects. Those videos will hopefully be out soon, but know that I've been working on them since like December and it's almost May. They are coming soon, I promise. Even if soon means that it's like in August when they're posted. My bad. But I am going to start with the base of this hat first. So I need to make this straight, and or all of this, I need to even this out to make it actually look like a cake on top instead of a cowboy hat. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that with painter's tape, similar to how I did with the last video. Also ignore my nails. I know they're chipped and I really need to redo them. I think I'm going to try to paint them yellow sometime this week for Duck Derby themed, and I think it'll just be cute. I also bought a Duck Derby themed shirt, or just a duck shirt. It says definitely not all in a row. You'll see it. You'll see it eventually. But that's the plan. So let's start the time lapse and get to it because gel medium takes a long time to dry. Alrighty, so I really didn't think that intro was almost going to be 10 minutes, so apologies about that, but let's finally get into making this hat. I wanted to treat this similarly to how I made my birthday cake, but instead of building a cake from scratch, this time I had a base. However, I didn't want the cake part of my hat to look like a hat. So I used painter's tape while making my birthday cake after the paper mache failed miserably, so my goal was to use that to even out the top and the sides of the hat
with the painter's tape, but then used gel medium on top for the icing. This ended up using a lot more tape than I was expecting, and I actually ran out of my roll of blue tape and had to switch to green. After I was finished, I was showing my mom, and she asked me why it was green because I had told her I was going to make the top blue earlier, so I had to explain my process and that it would all be covered. But I thought it was a really funny interaction because these projects always start off looking very rough towards the beginning, and they truly are a you have to trust the process. With my birthday cake, I used beads as sprinkles, but I didn't really have good beads that I felt would fit the duck-themed vibe, so I decided to make my own. I did this by cutting out strips of colored cardstock. I went with an orangey yellow, a light yellow, and white because I think they just fit the duck theme the best and they would stand out really good on a light blue cake base. When it came time to icing my cake with gel medium, I had a bit of a mess up. I thought I still had gel medium from my birthday cake, but I in fact did not. However, I had gloss medium, which is very similar to gel medium, but it's the slightest bit thinner. This just meant that I had to layer it on thicker. However, the thicker you layer something on, the longer it takes to dry, so you can't tell here because it's just a time lapse, but the gel medium took a full 48 hours to dry, and I still painted over some questionable parts because I was running out of time. I even put it under a fan when I went to work, and I just prayed. My last ditch effort was going over it with a hairdryer, but as an artist, I don't really recommend this because it risks the piece drying too fast on the outside and then the inside is still tacky. This can cause cracks, but in desperate times, call for desperate measures, and it turned out fine, thank goodness, but if I was more prepared and knew the competition existed more than a week in advance, I would have fully let it dry naturally rather than using a hairdryer. While waiting on the gel medium to dry a bit more, I decided to start painting the hat part. I mixed up some yellows and oranges to create a color that matched the color of the rubber ducks. This would tie in all the colors together and make everything look more cohesive. Okay, now to the hat part. Gel and gloss mediums dry clear, so you can tell where I painted over some more questionably dry enough parts of this hat. I painted it a light blue because it gave me like a pond vibe, even though the only other thing I'm putting on the cake is more icing and rubber ducks. So in reality, I could have painted it any color I wanted, but I really like how the blue and yellow and white go together. In between layers, I used the hairdryer to dry the paint, which again, I would have waited for it to dry naturally if I wasn't in such a time crunch. After I was finished with the blue paint, I decided to paint the bottom of the hat the same yellow I used for the top. I will link this hat in the description if you're watching this and finding inspiration to make your own cake hat, but I urge you, maybe get the color of hat that already matches your vibe that you're going for because this hat was incredibly hard to paint because of the texture. This was the only hat that would ship through Prime on time, so it was kind of my only option. The hat is a felt material which made it very absorbent to the paint, and I had to paint layer after layer after layer after layer on this hat to make it opaque. Also, while painting, some little fuzzies from the hat were getting mixed in, which created an odd texture, which also made it hard to paint and glue the sprinkles on, which we haven't quite got to, but you'll see what I mean in a few minutes. Gluing the sprinkles on the actual cake part was very simple. I used a Mod Podge technique with a bottle of Elmer's glue that I had pre-mixed with 1 part water to 2 parts Elmer's glue for projects like this. This is a great dupe to using actual Mod Podge because it's cheaper and you can do it with any white school glue, not just Elmer's glue. I actually learned this in middle school art class and now I'm an actual high school art teacher. I use this technique a lot with projects that I teach my students. For the actual hat part, I decided to add some blue sprinkles to the mix. I didn't have blue cardstock, but I did have blue copy paper and it still worked. It just wasn't as stiff, so I had a bit of a harder time getting it to stay without wrinkling under the glue, but I think it worked out fine. I found that using the Mod Podge technique on the hat did prove to be a challenge. Due to the texture of the hat, there were little fuzzies that had mixed in with the paint, and they were now mixing into the glue mixture. This made it a lot more difficult for the glue to actually attach and not repel from the hat and gel up, but I stuck with it and worked slowly in sections. This was definitely the most time-consuming part of the hat process because I put down each fake sprinkle individually, and I was doing this on top and on the bottom of the hat. But I really like how it makes the whole hat look together, and I wanted the entire hat to be a work of art. So that means I couldn't leave any detail out. And I'm an overachiever when it comes to this sort of thing. I used the hairdryer again to dry the glue so I could work as fast as possible, and it worked out really well. I'm really lucky that I didn't get any weird cracks or spots that didn't dry right by doing this, so I'm extremely thankful that the universe was on my side. For the bottom of the hat, there were some spots that had rubbed against the table weird and turned black, probably from all of the acrylic marker stains, so I used a yellow acrylic marker to draw over them in a concealer attempt, then painted on top of them again to even out the color. I actually ran out of one of the yellows I had used in my original mix, so color matching was extremely difficult, and you can definitely tell where it's different, but I was doing this at like 12 a.m. so Walmart wasn't open and I didn't have time to spare, so I went with it and hoped that the sprinkles would distract from the color inconsistency. In the end, this did work and no one really said anything about it, but I don't really think you could tell because the paint did end up drying a very, very close match. Even though it wasn't perfect, I think this is probably one of those things that I noticed because I'm the artist and my worst critic, and no one else would even notice or care that the color was slightly off. I added my tag into the inside of the hat and I was officially done with the sprinkles, thank goodness. I would do this again, don't get me wrong, but man oh man were the sprinkles the hardest part of this hat. Now it was finally time to break out my new piping bags and get to icing this cake. This time I bought different piping bags with a lot more tip options. When I made my birthday cake I only had one and I do think it was cute and looked real, but I wanted to up my quality for the second go round of making a fake cake. Unfortunately, the ones I got had no instructions, and I am an artist, but I'm not a cake decorator, so I had to watch a few tutorials on TikTok and I was ready to go. Since I realized I didn't have gel medium and the gloss medium took so long to dry, I popped into Hobby Lobby and bought some modeling paste. I've used modeling paste in the past in many paintings before, and the specific Artist Touch brand of modeling paste dries white, so I wouldn't have to add any paint into it or paint on top of it. My main fear now was that this still wasn't going to dry on time. I've seen a lot of fake cake tutorials where they use plaster for icing, and I've never tried this, but I'm comfortable with gel medium and modeling paste as a medium, so I never really thought to try it. Maybe if I make another cake, I will try the plaster approach. Modeling paste is more prone to cracking than gel medium, but does tend to dry faster, so this was my best bet. I'm so happy with how the different tips on the piping bags turned out, and I added some extra to stick the ducks on, so they were sure not to fall off. This did end up backfiring in the front because gravity started to win and I had to scrape off some where the paste was sliding and then redo it. It still turned out fine though. As long as you remove modeling paste before it dries, you should have no issues with any mistakes. I decided that adding icing to the outside of the hat would make everything look more cohesive. I was worried about gravity taking control on the raised sides, so I did a really thin layer. This helped a lot because the modeling paste wasn't too heavy. My goal was to put tiny ducks all around the hat, so the plan was to wait for the first layer to dry and then add a second layer of modeling paste to the sides so they'd have a base protecting them from sliding and adding the tiny ducks on that layer. Now it was time to work on my candles. Amazon unfortunately didn't sell yellow 22 candles, but they did have gold. I wasn't planning to light them anyway because that would be pretty dangerous on a hat, so I decided I would just paint them yellow. First I tried to paint them with a pale yellow nail polish, but that ended up having a weird reaction with the gold color on the candle and they kind of melted and mixed together. So I let that dry and took some regular white acrylic paint to paint a base layer before taking a bright yellow nail polish to paint on top. And during this process, thankfully my hairdryer has a cold setting on it, so I used the cold setting to dry the layers of paint in between. I'm glad my hairdryer had this setting because if it didn't, I would have had to wait a while for the candles to dry, risking melting the candles under the dryer heat. Now that the candles were finished, it was time to add them to the hat. With my birthday cake, I punctured holes in the top with an X-Acto blade and then glued around them. But this wasn't really an option this time considering this was a hat and I would indeed need to put said hat on my head, and I wouldn't be able to do so if there were candlesticks poking through the hat where my head needed to be. So I took a rain check to brainstorm about the candles and started adding the Duck Derby icing to the front of the hat. I wanted it to have Duck Derby written on the front of the cake so it looked like my hat said 22 Duck Derby for the 22nd annual Duck Derby. I mixed in yellow paint with the modeling paste and layered it over and over and over and over and over again on the cake, trying to make it look more like icing as much as I could at least. I didn't love how the color was turning out, so I decided to take some yellow nail polish and go over the modeling paste with it to color match the candles. After I was done with this, I touched up the edges with some blue paint and my duck derby icing was complete. Now back to the candles. I decided to trim the candlesticks down and glue them on top of the hat with hot glue and hold them in place until they dry. This worked out really well and the candles were much more stable than I expected them to be. I touched up some of the edges of the candles with more nail polish and waited a bit longer for the hot glue to settle in before going in with the modeling paste to put some more icing around the candles to cover up the hot glue and further support the candles. It was the Thursday before the derby at this point and it had been around 24 hours since I did the first round of icing. And it was completely dry, thank goodness. So it was time for my second layer of modeling paste icing on the raised edges of the hat so I could add my tiny ducks around the rest of the hat. Since I wasn't planning on actually lighting my hat on fire, I decided to make little fake flames to add to my candles. I did this by drawing flames with acrylic marker on cardstock and then super gluing them to the candle wicks. I know it obviously doesn't look like real fire, but I really like how cute the flames turned out. It's just another detail that gives this hat so much more character. And with that, I was finally done with my hat the Thursday before the derby. Now I just had to hope everything would dry on time for Saturday's competition.
Okay, now that my duck cake is done, I think I want to actually make some duck earrings with some of the leftover ducks just to wear on the day because I think that'll be fun and I have a lot of jewelry material. So I think I'm just going to try to poke a hole in the duck's head and glue it into an earring back. We'll see how that works, but obviously I'm going to film that too. It's currently 10:40 on Thursday the 28th. I'm not going to have any time to work on the hat tomorrow because I have to work at my server job. So hopefully there will be enough time for all of this extra icing or technically modeling paste to dry. It did dry a lot faster than I expected, so I'm not super worried about it, but let's get to making some earrings because I'm not going to have time to do it tomorrow.
So I experimented with the duck size I wanted to use for my earrings. I ultimately chose the medium-sized ducks because they were just more practical, and I've recently been having a lot of trouble out of my first lobe piercing, which is weird because I've had that piercing since I was a single-digits-year-old kid. Now, I know what you're going to tell me because I know you're not supposed to Google symptoms, but I did anyway, and Google said I could be developing a nickel allergy where the sterling silver coating may have corroded off of the earrings that I just keep in my piercings all the time. So I ordered some new sensitive hoops for my everyday wear, and update, my ear is doing much better, but I was not trying to tempt the fates with these duck earrings. If you've watched my vlogs before, you're familiar with Bree and M. They came with me to the duck derby and I ended up making them some matching earrings the morning of the derby. I thought it was fun that we all got to match. And finally, here is my finished duck hat and my earrings in all of their glory. And now you're probably wondering, Sydney, how did you do in the competition? And did your duck win the duck derby? Well folks, for the answers to all of those questions, you're just going to have to wait for next week's video where I take you guys with me to the duck derby. So if you don't want to miss it, and you like my content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Bye!